Project 2025 is not going to be started in 2025. It is not the year of the project's initiation. It is the year in which the Heritage Foundation looks to as the project's culmination. For the latter part of 40 years, the Heritage Foundation has put forth agendas and projects, initiatives, and allocated resources and funds to pilot those initiatives and give them a foothold in our democracy and in our government on the local, state, and federal level. That's why I emphasize the importance of voting on every level. The Heritage Foundation understood the importance of every level of government, from local, from our school boards, all the way up to our Supreme Court. You have to understand, the Heritage Foundation is responsible and played a major role in the election of Ronald Reagan. The Heritage Foundation is responsible and played a major role in the Supreme Court that we see today. The Heritage Foundation is responsible for the creation, the conception, and the authorship of Project 2025. Understand that Project 2025, in tandem with Agenda 47, is aimed at bringing these ideas to fruition in the year 2025. Do you understand that these ideas have been enacted already? When I hear people say, oh, it's just a conservative think tank, it's not real. It's a conservative wish list. When I hear people say that, I ask them a couple of things, starting off with the fact that in order for it to be a wish list, it means it's something that you wish to happen, which means that we've agreed that there are groups of conservatives who wish and yearn for this type of thing to happen. That's the first problem. The second problem, and the question that I ask, is have you read it? Because if you've read it for yourself, you'd understand and you'd see that this is not a wish list, a think tank, or an idea. This is reality. The things outlined in that project have already happened. It has already happened. And you have to ask yourself, who has piloted such abhorrent policies, agendas, and ideas? Who was actively trying to undermine our democracy? You got to think a little bit deeper than just your political ideology. You have to think a little bit deeper than party right now. And ask yourself, why would the Supreme Court aggrandize its own power by overturning Chevron deference? It made the judiciary more powerful. Why would it do that? How does that help you and I? How does that help the people? Why would the Supreme Court rule to make a president immune from criminal prosecution, even if they commit criminal acts under their official capacity in the office of the presidency? How does that help us as the people when our leaders don't abide by the same rules that we have to abide by? How does that help us? How does it help us or anyone else to say that voting is not a fundamental right and that it's not constitutionally protected? How does that help anyone? How does that help the people? How does it help the people to dissolve the Department of Education and attack education? How does that help us? Project 2025 is not aimed at helping people. The people, us, you and I. It's not aimed at helping us. It's aimed at keeping one demographic of people in power, because they realize that they are losing their grip on power, and now they're doing everything in their power to keep it. You have to understand something. Justice does not occur while you sit in the audience and watch it walk across the stage. Justice will not come and just sit in your lap. It's not gonna fall out the sky, hit you up top the head. That's not how it works. Justice is an ever-ending initiative, action. Because people understand that if you have enough compassion, enough hope, and enough optimism, that you can fight for justice. Justice is something that you have to fight for. And we have to fight for it. Battle at the ballot box, vote, organize, get involved, understand, educate yourself. Do not allow yourself to be indoctrinated by misinformation. People telling you that it's a think tank. People telling you that this is not real. It's a fallacy. It's not reality. It's an idea. It's so extreme and ridiculous and abysmal. They say it to you to convince you that it's an impossibility so that they can go behind your back and under your nose and implement it without you even noticing. Understand. This is bigger than two people, than two parties. It's about our democracy, because we have seen how outlined in Project 2025, they want to undermine our democratic republic. They want to quite literally terminate aspects of the Constitution. How does that help anyone? Look through the trees, see the forest. Look beyond your conservatism, your republicanism, your liberalism. Look beyond that and see the forest. Understand what's actually happening right now. And come together to ensure that our democracy does not crumble at our feet. Project 2025 is not a joke. It's not a game. Someone sat down. Many people sat down and wrote this out. They sat down and put this on paper. They sat down and implemented it. Many people are believing the lies that Project 2025 isn't real. What do you mean it's not real? Have you read it? They can't do the stuff in there. It's too extreme. That's not a possibility. They wrote it down and it's happening. And that's how I know those who have read it and those who have not. Because those who have read it as a collective, no matter which side of the aisle you find yourself leaning towards, as a collective, if you've read that agenda, you are in staunch opposition to it, because you understand how pernicious it is to our society and how harmful it is to people. If you haven't read the agenda, a telltale sign is when you say that stuff can't happen. Because if you were reading it for yourself, which I encourage you to do, read it for yourself. If you were reading it for yourself, you'd be able to pinpoint exactly in that manuscript what has already taken place and transpired. You'd be able to see exactly what has already occurred. As you're reading it for yourself, read it for yourself and vote accordingly, because there's a reason they're attacking education. There's a reason they're distancing themselves from it as a campaign. There's a reason they're trying to convince you that it's liberal propaganda and fear-mongering. No, this is what's happening right now. We see it happening. And they put it in 920 pages to deter you from reading it. Read it for yourself. Do not take my word for it, anybody else's. Read it for yourself, and you will see exactly what's at stake. I encourage you to vote. I encourage you to keep the optimism and the hope that change can happen as long as we continue to make it happen. Vote accordingly. Educate yourself. And do not believe the mis and disinformation that tries to convince you that this stuff is not real, because we see it on a daily basis.